Poverty in America is defined based on a national standard called the Federal Poverty Guideline. This year, that is defined for a family of four at $19,350. Any family that falls below that is considered poor. The irony of that is, while there are millions below that poverty guideline, half of those that are below it make half of that standard, so their income is around $8,000 to $10,000, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out when you start trying to put together a budget around $10,000 a year for a family of four, you just can't do it.
Public transportation, if you want to know what poverty is in this country, take a ride on the L in Chicago, and just all the sounds and the smells and the looks on people's faces as they kind of are going to jobs that unfortunately often don't pay enough for them to sustain their family, and the frustration of that so often causes men to then turn to things like drugs and alcohol to try to help them forget the situation they're in.
When I've traveled in other parts of the world, one of the things that's interesting, I see people that have absolutely nothing materially, but they still have a sense of hope and a sense of goodness of life. American poverty has been one that has just been downtrodden. It's just like pounced on people. It's beat people up. And of course, racism is a very big part of American poverty that keeps people down. So one of the big differences, I think, of poverty in America versus other poverty is American poverty, I often describe, is when someone has lost hope, when a hopelessness situation, where they've been beaten down, they've tried to get into the mainstream, trying to work, but they keep getting pushed back, and then because of that, they end up giving up on the system.
Poverty is so much more than financial lack. Many people think of poverty, they think that it's just something where not having enough, where a family doesn't have enough money, or they live in the ghetto or the projects, but it's more of a mindset. I've been in community development for 11 years, and you're dealing with a mindset of lack, a mindset that says, I am nothing, I have nothing, and I never will have anything. Therefore, I shouldn't try to achieve anything. I shouldn't want to do better because my mother never had anything, and my grandmother never had anything, so I never will either. And so it's a mindset, a way of thinking, a paradigm that many people grow up with, and it's handed down many times from generations before.
One of the most significant things about being poor is a lack of opportunities, and it's having a lot of bad choices. So in any given day, you have a lot of bad choices. You can choose to do drugs, you can choose to have sex, you can choose to join a gang, but you don't have so many good choices, and you often don't have people to guide you in that process, or at least people who you trust to guide you in that process. So what you do is you learn to cope, and you do your best to cope with your environment, and that may involve making bad choices. And I think that that's a part of what poverty does, is it keeps people caught in a cycle.
I think people could live, if we could do something with people's values, they could live somewhat of a qualitative life with $15,000 or $20,000 a year. But I think the consumerism and the materialism that's a part of our life, that we have now made that as a absolute right that we have to have. And I think that's forced upon us by the commercial environment in which we are living. And I think that we as Christians has got to fight hard to raise the standard of living and give people the skills to break out of that. But I think we as Christians have got to fight against this whole commercialism of the human being, because at the end of that is violence and crime, because people are going to get that, the car theft and all of those kind of things, because we think that riding and driving a certain kind of car is part of our worth and values of a human being. So poverty is a complex situation.
A part of poverty is a lack of relationships and community and I think that Mother Teresa said the greatest poverty is that of loneliness. And so I think we see that across our country. Like, we're the richest country in the world, but we're also one of the most miserable, the most depressed, the most medicated, you know. So amidst all that, I think there's a lot of different faces that poverty has. But I think that we also have this perception that we don't have poverty or extreme poverty in the United States. And the incredible thing that I've learned from my neighborhood is that the fastest growing homeless population is women with children. The average age of homelessness in the United States, if you look at statistics across the board, is around the age of 9 or 10. And that's the face of homelessness that I've grown to know. And I think that kind of poverty we have, and there's a lot of reasons for it. And CCDA is really good about connecting that poverty is some of it is about personal decisions, and some of it's about social, systemic and policies, and some of it's about systems and principalities and powers and policies that are there. So that's an important connection. And one of our communities, they have a saying on the wall that says, "We cannot fully recover until we help the society that made us sick recover." So there's that connection that poverty is something that we experience personally, and it's something that we experience as a society. And I think that as Christians, as a Christian myself, we have a lot of language about being born again and rebirth. And but in the scriptures we also see that being born again is also about redistribution, and that when people encounter Jesus, they sell everything they have and they give it to the poor. They begin to share with their neighbor. They have this sense that we're born again into a new family. And so being a Christian, to me, and looking at poverty, is having the sense that we're a part of a global neighborhood and a global family where some of our sisters and brothers don't have everything they need, and some of us have a heck of a lot more than we need. So it's figuring out, what does that mean? And in a biological family, like, we would think it's crazy if one of the parents were kind of living it up and had a stash of food in their closet and their kids were starving to death. I think how much more scandalous it is within a church, in the sense of a spiritual community and a rebirth, that we have some people that have extra rooms in their home, have extra food in their closet, money in the bank, and others of us are literally starving to death. So that's the sense of, like, for me, everything's rooted in this idea that we're family. And that's really refreshing, because it's not just a guilt of like, oh, there's 35,000 children starving to death, I got to do something. But it's the sense that, like, these gifts of God are so precious and something to celebrate so much that they're too good to hold for myself. And as Dorothy Day said, the best thing to do with the best things in life is to give them away. And that's what I feel at CCDA, is there's people that have experienced the gifts of God so much that we want to make sure that we all have a chance to share that as a family.